From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, June the 4th, 2025. An IDF reserve soldier was killed last night in Gaza. 27-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Alon Farkas was killed and another reservist seriously wounded when a Palestinian terrorist ambushed Israeli troops in Gaza City. And on Monday, 3 Israeli soldiers were killed and 2 injured by a roadside bomb. They are 20-year-old Staff Sergeant Lior Steinberg, 20-year-old Staff Sergeant Ofek Barhana, and 22-year-old Staff Sergeant Omer Van Gelder. Red alert sirens sounded yesterday in northern Israel, sending residents running for bomb shelters and safe rooms in the Golan Heights as 2 rockets were launched at northern Israel from Syria. The IDF said 2 launches were detected that crossed from Syrian territory towards the country's territory and fell in open areas. In response, the IDF said it struck an arms site in southern Syria with artillery. And for the 3rd time this month already, a ballistic missile was fired at Israel from Yemen by the Houthis, sending residents of central Israel running for shelter on Tuesday. It was intercepted and no injury was reported. The IDF spokesperson yesterday weighed in on reports over the last few days that blamed Israel for casualties in Gaza during the distribution of aid there. For example, the Washington Post claimed on Sunday that it wrote at least 31 killed, according to the Strip's health ministry, when Israeli troops opened fire on crowds making their way to collect aid. The Post then yesterday issued a correction, writing that the article was taken down as early versions didn't meet Post fairness standards, writing the article failed to make clear if attributing the deaths to Israel was the position of the Gaza Health Ministry or a fact verified by the Post. While statements from Israel that it was unaware of injuries and that an initial inquiry indicated its soldiers didn't fire at civilians near the site were included in all versions, the Post didn't give proper weight to Israel's denial and gave improper certitude about what was known about any Israeli role in the shootings. The early versions fell short of Post standards of fairness and should not have been published in that form. Here is IDF spokesperson Brigadier General Effie Defrin with more on the incident and on the media reporting.
According to initial findings, the IDF did not fire at civilians within the aid distribution centers. Any claims to the contrary are entirely false, harm our forces, and serve Hamas propaganda. Hamas is spreading false information, which is unfortunately being echoed by the international media without any verification.
By the way, while the Post did update the story, the social media preview for it still has the original headline blaming Israel. We have reached out to the Washington Post to correct this. We are still waiting for a response. Turning now to Colorado and the firebombing attack on a peaceful weekly walk in Boulder, held by Run for Their Lives, to raise awareness for the hostages still being held by terror group Hamas in Gaza. 8 people suffered burns, including a Holocaust survivor and an 88-year-old woman who was critically injured. The total number of injured rose today to 15 after several people who were not hurt as badly have come forward. The suspect, Mohammed Soliman, an Egyptian national, said to have yelled "End Zionists" and "Free Palestine" during the attack, has been charged with attempted murder and a hate crime, among other charges. Jewish organizations shared their horror at the attack, like CEO of the American Jewish Committee, Ted Deutsch, who wrote, "We cannot simply move on" after the recent anti-Semitic attacks in D.C. and Boulder. These incidents are the horrifying consequences of anti-Semitic rhetoric being excused and normalized for far too long. We will not be silent. We refuse to accept violence against Jews as the new normal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in response the anti-Semitic attacks around the world are a direct result of blood libels against the Jewish state and people, and this must be stopped. Israel's President Isaac Herzog called the attack sickening and outrageous, a painful reminder, he said, that anti-Semitism knows no borders. Herzog saying the American and Israeli peoples stand united, determined to bring all our hostages home and to ensure no Jew anywhere stands alone. To the wounded in the entire community, you are in our hearts, Am Yisrael Chai. And the Hostages Families Forum shared messages of support for Boulder from hostage families and released hostages, stating the Run for Their Lives communities have stood with us for 20 months, showing up every week to peacefully demand freedom for our loved ones held hostage in Gaza. We are with you, Boulder. You have held our families in your hearts. Now we hold you in ours. The hostages who remain held captive by Hamas in Gaza have now been held for 607 days. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, June the 4th at 7 o'clock. David Harris speaks with David Collier, a prominent UK-based investigative journalist dedicated to exposing extremism, antisemitism, and efforts to demonize Israel, most notably in the BBC. 7:30, Rabbi Ammiel Hirsch speaks of the recent murders in D.C. of Yaron, Lischinsky, and Sarah Milgrim. At 8, it's the film Tragic Awakening that delves into the roots of the oldest hatred of anti-Semitism. At 9, it's Yossi Klein Halevi on the Chaim. At 10, it's a replay of Rabbi Hirsch. At 10:30, an encore of the news. And coming up next, it's Thinking Out Loud. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, June the 4th, 2025. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.